you can work from. And then using just your imagination. And I think a very good exercise, and I can't emphasize this enough, if you want to fortify your understanding, try your own plant. For example, my plant is going to be composed of nothing but rectangles.
She can't see what Dick's doing. I'm just going to get Karen to join us.
Who's back there? Oh, got it.
Sorry.
And it might start with something as simple as this. Can you see? All right?
Yeah, thanks.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And just go from your own imagination, and it could also be developed a little more involved with now I'm putting a fold in this. You might even go so far as to do something like this, so that see what I'm saying? To begin to visualize that this leaf is going to have an underside and a top side, and then you can always come in and drop this in. But if you don't understand this, and just to have your own imagination, okay, this is really going to be coming toward me now, and here's the middle of the leaf, and this one here is going to go back away from me, sort of at that angle. But, you know, just build around that without something to copy from, to feed your imagination, but also to get the sense of the foreshortening. Or it could even be done with this kind of thing.
You make it look so easy.
You'll also notice that plants, and I remember working with a student who lived in Haiku, she had a banana plant. And I said, what do you see in that banana plant? And what she saw was next to nothing but a banana plant. And what I saw was the new stems were coming out in the banana all like a coiled, you know, like you rolled up paper. And it was almost vertical. And the next one began to open up, a banana plant maybe a little bit like so. But basically the plant was unfolding until down here were brown, dry, dead, and almost the cycle of life. You know, the vigorous new growth. And it's not just a question of drawing, but make some relationship to what you're drawing and look at it. And these plants, it's the same way. Whether it's gravity or just life in general, as they get older, and this is a brand new plant. But look at the new kids in the block, you know, coming up in the middle. And the particular view that Holly had from this view, this leaf right here, you know, if you're in a position, don't just draw a leaf, but get yourself located so you get a good gestalt or a good angle on that, and I mean, this is almost like a hula dancer. The rhythms are coming through on that, but moving just a couple of inches and yeah. And so it's like studying someone for a portrait. You know, what qualities do you want in this? And as I say, some of these have just great rhythms, but get in the feel of what that rhythm is if you have to draw it through the air a few times. And I notice some of you are so scared of doing something wrong, you know. Okay, that was wrong. Okay, I'll correct it. Even if you have to do this sort of thing, do it. But these are just suggestions, and to get you, again, into the imaginative role of having to make choices. But if, again, you do this and you want to come a little bit closer to what nature's doing, then the top ones are going to be more vertical, and as they go down, most plants begin to, okay, like your banana.
I have some basic questions.
Yeah.
This, when you do this man here, you're doing everything with cubes. And yet here, these are just like flat.
Well, I'm trying to keep it simple. And your leaf is pretty much flat. But the other thing I want you to recognize, for example, and I'm going to exaggerate this, if I have a stem, the stem is basically a cylinder, right? That rib. And coming out of that might be smaller ribs. And along this line here is the leaf. But it engages in this cylinder like so. In other words, understand, not just copy, but okay, maybe I'm exaggerating this stem, but this has real substance, and it's quite different than the web, or what's between the ribs. And the ribs are very pronounced on this, but they are three-dimensional. They're not flat. They have dimension. And if you're drawing this small, you know, you're not going to engage in this. So it's not just a question of that, but you know, when I'm looking at this one leaf here and I can see that stem and it's coming toward me, I want to feel like I've done here. Okay, if I'm drawing this arm, this is an arm without the deltoid or the biceps or triceps. It's just a cylinder, and it engages with this cylinder here. But this and this are absolutely key internally. The arm is coming out toward me, and the foreshortening here. And so sleeves or seams like this are extremely important, just as the ribs are, to help define where, and I've purposely shown here, you can have the arm in different positions, but this is absolutely critical. If you don't see this, then you're just copying, and your copying might be wrong. Or the fact that you get, if you've done any serious drawing of the figure or anatomy, you begin to recognize, as we talked about before, the head will primarily be a square from the side, but a more rectangular, vertical in the facing, and where your eye would be, and all of these proportions. Then the thorax region, you see I could put the rib cage in here, and you know where the collarbone is going to go and everything else, or the neck is engaged again. And all of these, the thorax region or where your hip would come in, what basic shape is that? And if I'm looking down at this, how much would I see? And all of these are key lines. So once you understand this and this, if you get into a life drawing class, I think you'll have a much better understanding. And then, of course, we haven't really gotten into this. Then begin to understand how light and shadow works, and you know, well, if the light is coming from one source, this is going to be dark, this is going to be light, this is going to be halfway. But all of these then begin to be understood, and consistently, well, if that's dark on that side, then this side of the figure is going to be dark. And if you have the pectoralis muscle, you know, and it's probably going to have a drop shadow here, and all of this begins to make sense. But if you don't understand this, or you only depend on your copy, or get in, try to grasp, you know, what it is we're looking at, because it's a marvelous plant. And, you know, how do I get that to be ahead of that? And some of you are still reluctant to go in there and really, when you're hitting that point, that's got to be the darkest point you can possibly make on that to get that out. And so as it drops away, you know, have it drop away, not disappear. You know what I'm saying? Let it drop away, not go into a ghost, just as these would here. And I want this in front of this, so it would be a mistake to come in and do this. You know, that pulls that in front of this. Okay. Or, you know, you say, well, that's very much more simple than the plant I'm looking at. Okay, I can always come in here, I can always get the details, but if I haven't recognized that this is not as foreshortened as this, then I've missed the main part of that leaf. And there are leaves here that are coming toward me, and wait. Or don't make the mistake also, if you get into a still life and you do, okay, I've got this, and then you put all of the stems. It's the damnedest composition in the world. I mean, everything is pointing down to the most uninteresting part of the entire composition. You know, no one wants to see this. So if you go far enough in this program and you begin to recognize, okay, I've got this to work on, this is my painting, how much of this, how am I going to crop this? And the guy that does this, and you see this all the time, oh my God, bad
I have
news.
to go close my drawing pad now.
Or we had, when I was had the Wailea Art Center, we had tourists come in, you know, and they start their paintings, because you didn't have them for more than one day. And here are all the palm trees. Palm tree, palm tree, palm tree, palm tree. Oh, the beach, and oh, a wave breaking here, and then this. And it was almost like, make sure the palm trees stop before they get to the edge. Every palm tree had to be confined. You know, there was nothing going outside the picture. And, you know, it's very possible that one of the palm trees, especially here, established the foreground, you won't even see the top of it. You know, it's just, this makes for a marvelous, or the shadow dropping across from other palms. But the point is, how you crop this is a compositional idea, but even your drawings can begin to recognize it. Get up and make sure you've got, you know, if I move a half an inch this way, that whole leaf changes. Well, where do I want to be? Or if you're a landscape painter, you go out and you say, oh, the shaded tree, that's where I'm going to set up, because I want to be in the shade. And it's the worst possible place you could be, because the composition is so bad. And nothing works. You say, well, you know, if I were over there, it'd look a lot better. Well, why aren't you over there? And this was the thing with Kit Gentry. He goes out at 4 in the morning so he could be on location when the sun first comes up, because that's the time of day that he's trying to hit. I mean, it's considering issues like that that shows a maturity of the artist. And so watch your position. What's the best way to hit that leaf? And I don't want to see the whole damn plant. If I saw one well-drawn leaf, that serves me far better than the quantity. Okay? And anything else? Any questions?
I've got a question. It's so basic.
Yeah, wait, Karen? I have a question for you. If they don't like what I just said, can they drop the course?
Do we get our money back?
Yeah, that's the bottom line.
I was going to wait and get my money back after 2 more lessons.
Oh.
I'm just going to draw small leaves. That's all.
So I'm in my head trying to put together, when we started with linear perspective and two perspective and all that, and now we've got perspectives going all over the place. I can't
Yeah.
quite put it together in my mind. Like even this guy, where do these cubes relate to? Or
Where is the horizon?
yeah.
But it's such a great thing because you're looking on top, down on him from above, and his little leg is shorter because he's. I mean,
Where would you
you say this is going to come naturally after a while.
Anything that comes naturally, like in tennis or golf or anything else, that natural comes in quite late for most people. I can't teach you that. That's something that is just endurance and doing it over and over. But I find after all my years of drawing, if I don't sit down and draw every single day, it's like the fellow who is a tremendous voice, but he says, if I don't practice every day, I know it. He says, if I miss a day, I know it. If I miss 2 days, my wife knows it. If I miss 3 days, everyone knows it. Or words to that effect. So, no, what amazes me is that if I do this, I still have to marvel at how I manage that, because if I lay off a couple of days, I can't do that. Or I come off. If I miss 2 days, I couldn't possibly do that. And it's the same way if I'm playing ukulele or playing golf or anything else. You're just not going to be as sharp. And I wish there were an easier way out. So most of people who take a course like this, they'll never go back to it because they've got too many other things on their plate, and you don't think you'll lose it. But, you can look at this drawing here, and I hope you can see what I've tried to be emphasize. What is darker? And if I make this darker than that, because you say, well, it's back in the shadows. No. You see, that reads wrong. Because that is far more dominant, and it wants to come forward. And so I want you to be able to get into that cylinder. And so this is got to be done. But don't just end there. Taper off. And taper off. So your viewer is not even aware. I mean, it should be imperceivable how that works. But what is a real edge? Okay.
Oh, this really helped a lot for me. I'll try it, but
Well,
it really
as
made
I
a lot
say,
of sense.
start it simple. Okay, now you've got just one plane. Now you've got a two plane. Or, the leaf is doing this. Here's the stem, and the leaf is doing this. It's folded, okay? Or, in other words, don't try to get so complex at first. Then later on you might say, well, the leaf is doing something like this. Multiple folds or whatever. And then eventually, whatever. Okay. Any other?
Yeah, just back to trying to connect it with vanishing points or that sort of thing. Is that just, instead of now it's planes, but the planes are going all different angles and
3-point
directions.
perspective. In other words, these are not all sitting very comfortably as we had the horizon line, and all the rectangles are flat. These are doing everything imaginable. This is theoretical. All I'm saying is you've had the exposure to this. We've gotten involved also with inclined planes, which is a 3-point perspective, because if I want to show this tilted down like so, okay, like I folded this, and it's now coming down here, I know that this length and this length must be the same, right? Because this now represents this, but it's down here. well, I can't use that vanishing point, right? I've got to have one coming off here. This is the third point. This is, and then once I've got that, then you see I have this already. So this now represents this at that angle.
Wow.
But if you go through and you get too mechanical about this, all I'm saying is this will give you, I think, the core of understanding of how we perceive foreshortening and horizon lines and all the rest. Well, if I look at this or if I look at this and I say, well, find me the horizon line, well, there's no way the horizon line could be down here, because that would assume I'm looking up at, and I'm not, I'm looking down at this. So, okay, where would this horizon line be? Well, this one would be up that high. All these would go back. And these aren't necessarily all parallel, because they're all going, but you don't get to this point until you understand that. But I don't want you to get so bogged down that you have to draw all of the vanishing lines in. That would kill any creativity whatsoever. But I want you to understand this, and that this comes from this. If that.
So there can be many vanishing points
Yeah.
when you
Oh,
do something, like they're
thousands.
unlimited.
Oh yeah, because
Right.
all of these leaves are
Right.
on
all
different planes.
directions,
Yeah,
right.
going
Yeah.
in different directions. But you understand also that I can make this now as complex as I want, because you've all done this, And if I had drawn this the first day, you probably wouldn't know quite what I'm doing. But this is also the same thing we did with drapery. Right? It's just trying to understand what it is the form is doing. But all I can give you are the basics. The rest is just practice. And if you practice wrong by putting your emphasis on the wrong line or the wrong edge, it shows, number one, you didn't understand, or I'm a lousy teacher. But I went through 4 years of art school, working 15 hours a day, drawing nothing but drawing and painting, drawing and designing, my God, until, But it wasn't until years later that I'm studying with Elvis, and he talked to me about the weight of line. Whoa, I go back and look at all these drawings of mine, it's just not working. So, you can take a horse to water, but anyway, I hope some of this sinks in, and it apparently is happening.
We really hope.
Okay, have a good week, and if you don't call.